I'm going live with Julia Naftulin from Business Insider. This should be a really, really fun live. I hope you hear me. I've given up on my nifty difty ear. Oh, Julia's there. Oh, that was pretty fast, Julia. Hi there, the rest of you. Let me just invite Julia because you're going to love her. Okay. Julia is super cool, and hopefully this will all work. Hi there, I yell it. Hi there. Oh, it's Julia. It worked. It's like a miracle. A miracle in our times. Hold on, let me just adjust my little screen here. So, hi, Julia. This is cool. It's good to see you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly. I used to use my cordless ones, and then everybody complained they couldn't hear. So I'm back to my old-fashioned corded ones. But anyway, it is really nice to see you. And how are you doing? You're on the other side of New York, right? You're in Manhattan, right? Do I have that right?
No, I'm actually in Philadelphia.
Oh, right. You're in Philadelphia, my old stomping ground where I was born. Did I tell you that? I think I did tell you that, right?
Yeah, we talked about my parents and
Yes. Anyway, it's so good to see you. Julia and I met because Julia is going to do something with my book, which is super nice of her. So, and then I met Julia and I was like, oh my God, I have to take you live because I have always wanted to be a sex columnist and I never got to do that. Like, I feel like I'm living a sex column, but I think it's amazing that you're doing that. So welcome, Julia. Business Insider. Everybody loves Business Insider. So maybe you want to just tell people a little bit what the column is called, what it does, just to talk about the column for a minute.
Sure, absolutely. So the column is called Doing It Right, and it's about anything sex, dating, relationships related. I answer a question from readers every Friday, and anyone can submit a question anonymously. And yeah, so it's a weekly column that started about 2 years ago. The company was just growing and looking for people to write columns, and I'm the sex and relationships reporter, so it ended up happening. And
you definitely have the most fun column, right? Does everybody in the whole Business Insider agree that you have the most fun column?
I definitely think I do. I'm sure everyone else does too.
So you do get do you feel a little bit like your Dear Abby?
A little. I mean, she wasn't real, but like growing up, I thought Carrie Bradshaw was really cool.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so that's interesting. You think of yourself as Carrie Bradshaw, but she was a column. She was more about column. I guess she did answer questions.
Yeah, but her column was like very like based on her own experience, whereas mine is. Oh, I forgot to say this. I interview an expert every week to go with the column. So if it's like a relationships thing, I'll interview a relationship therapist. If it's related to sex, maybe a gynecologist or a sex therapist like yourself. So there's always some expert back advice mixed in with my own take on things.
Do you self-disclose? And back to the Carrie Bradshaw and like Sex and the City, because I heard they're cut. Oh wait, you told me they're doing a reprisal or something, right? Okay, give us the inside scoop as somebody from the press. What is happening with Sex and the City coming back? And then we'll get back to your column.
Yeah, I don't know that much. I know that the character of Samantha Jones isn't in it, because I guess Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall, who played
had a fight,
yeah,
right?
Yes. Something. I don't have any inside information, but
I saw an interview with Kim Cattrall where she does not seem like a super easy person to get along with. I loved her and I loved her character, but just watching her interviews, I would think she may not have been the easiest person to get along with. Just a sense.
Yeah. But yeah, so I feel like, I don't know, some people seem like excited about the reboot, and then other people think it'll be nothing without her character, so it should be interesting. But I don't think they didn't start filming for it yet. Anyway.
Are the other characters, is Miranda in there? And what was the name of I thought she was the prettiest one. The one who converted to Judaism. Charlotte, yes. Yeah. The conversion to Judaism was, I thought, the most freaking hysterical thing. No? It's very funny. Anyway. Anyhow, but okay, but I digress. So you are the Carrie Bradshaw, sort of the Business Insider.
I guess so. I mean, yeah,
Do you have a lot of shoes?
Experience. Do I have a lot of shoes? As many as I can fit in my like pretty tiny closet. Not as many as her. So
what sort of surprised you the most when you started doing this column? Did anything surprise you?
I think I don't know if it was surprising. After it started happening, I was kind of like, this makes sense, but there's a lot of themes that emerge. Like, you know, even though I'm answering a different person's question every week, I've noticed that there's a lot of this. People have questions about, I'm sure you know this from what you do, questions about a lot of the same things. So it's been really interesting to see like which themes pop up and the things people are most concerned about with their relationships or with their sex lives.
So you know, I just want to tell everybody who's live now, you can ask questions. Like that's the advantage of actually watching this live as opposed to recorded. Feel free to ask questions, and for once, it's not something super personal. So you feel free. And hello, everybody. It's really nice to see you. I'm really excited to see you. And this is not like, we're not for once talking about your vagina or your, you know, preferences and penis size. So you should feel free to ask whatever questions you have so that Julia can address them. But okay, so themes are emerging from the questions that come in. Can I ask you approximately how many questions you get a week? I have these fantasies of like mail pouring in. Is it a lot or not that many?
I would say, I'm not sure per week, but
per month,
I probably get like 50 a month. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like when we first started, I wasn't getting any questions because it was a brand new thing that came out of nowhere. So
how long ago did you start it?
2 years ago.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the beginning you didn't get any, and now you get like 50 a week.
Yeah. So, I would say 50 a month. Yeah.
50 a month. I mean,
so they come from all over the world, not just the States.
Really? What's the most interesting place you ever got it from?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I got one from like Egypt, which is pretty cool.
In English. Yeah. Wow. We have Botox patients who come in from Egypt. That's like, okay. Somebody just asked, what was your favorite question that you ever answered? So I guess that would be like the favorite question you ever got versus the favorite question you ever answered. Those may be two different questions.
Yeah. Oh, that's hard because I do love a good juicy question that has a lot of drama in it, which I've definitely gotten some of those. Like, this one I got recently was about a guy was having trouble with his mother-in-law, their relationship, because I guess she had a Tupperware selling business and he dropped.
I am trying to figure out where the hell this is going. Okay, go on. Yeah.
He dropped and broke one of her Tupperware, and then she kind of bullies him, and so he wants to know like how to have a relationship where he's not being bullied by his mother-in-law, but also like, you know, can stay amicable because he has to see her. So that was an interesting one, the Tupperware.
Why doesn't he just pay her back for the piece of Tupperware?
Because he helped her with a lot of her business ventures and things like on his own time and didn't ask for anything in return. So
he doesn't feel like he should pay her for the Tupperware. So can I ask you, I have so many questions that are coming up for me. So the first one is, what percentage is about like partnered relationship, like boyfriend, girlfriend, or girlfriend, whatever? And what percentage is like this about like mother-in-laws and kids? So that's question one. And then question number two is also, why do people think that this is the best way to get answers to their questions? So, okay, you get my, okay.
Wait, so the first one is how many are just about couples?
Yeah, like what I assumed they were all about, I mean, I know every once in a while I see another one, but I guess I assume the percentage would be very high about couples, right?
I would say there's three main categories. There's people asking about their relationship with their partner, like their romantic relationship. Then there's singles who will ask questions, or like people who are dating other people about like dating related things. And then there's people asking about like more platonic relationships, whether it's with mother-in-laws, friend, like, you know, dealing with toxic friends or things like that too.
If you're just joining us, this is Julia Naftulin, and she runs the relationship and sex column for Business Insider, which I just think is the funnest job ever. So what percentage would you say is not like romantic or dating? Would you say it's like a small percentage or a big percentage?
I would say it's the second biggest after, I would say people ask about couple questions the most, and then it's with like mother-in-laws and
really
that type of thing. So yeah, I would say like maybe 40%.
Really? Oh my God. I'm so surprised. Are you guys surprised who are watching? I'm totally surprised. I thought everything we'd get would be about dating and sex and whatever.
No,
and what
percent? Those relationships are just super hard to navigate because you don't really get a framework for navigating like your friendships, or like, I don't know. I feel like we don't learn a lot about that growing up, like how to navigate that type of relationship with someone. So
You're
I
totally
after I
right.
started getting those, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense.
No, I think you're 100% right. I think, and we're getting a lot of hearts here. I think it is really hard. I think we don't appreciate how hard it is to navigate the interpersonal relationships in our life, like not the work relationships, but our friends or our parents but I just, okay, which leads me, I guess, to my second question, which is, why do people think this is the best way to get their relation? Like, it just seems like an odd way. Like, I don't know, if I was having trouble with my mother-in-law or my daughter-in-law, I don't think I'd suggest an advice column. Like, that wouldn't necessarily be where I'd go. So yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing is people maybe don't want, and probably more of my columns than not, one of the things is I say is like, you should see a therapist, but I think, people don't want to because of the stigma around it, or they can't afford therapy. And I think also, yeah, it's like you get a third party in a way, like, because I'll interview the therapist for you, and ask questions related to your issue. And then also, so I guess I, in a way, can act as a third party, and maybe it's a little more accessible for some people than therapy, is what I would guess, because, you ask your friend or your partner for advice, and they have a relationship with your mom too, so they might not be the best at giving you impartial advice, I guess.
Right. No, no, no. I know it's mostly the brevity of it that would, in other words, it's
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's something we call into an anonymous person who's a coach and have a 15 or 20-minute conversation to explain the situation. Doesn't surprise me so much. But that somebody would write a letter in and expect you to answer it in 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs in a way that would be help. I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. It's interesting to see some people write really short, and then other people spare no detail and give me whole essays of their situations.
Do you have, okay, we got 2 questions. I want to make sure we get to them, but then I want to know whether you have trouble picking the answer. So one question was, have you been seeing more writing in since the pandemic? And the other question is somebody who wants to do what you're doing and she wants advice. Julia Naftulin is the sex and relationship and love columnist at Business Insider. So, okay, so which question do you want to tackle first? Somebody really loves you, Julia. You're getting a lot of hearts. Just saying.
Thanks. I know some of my friends are watching, so.
Hi, Julia's friends.
What was the question?
Are you getting more questions with the pandemic? Do you feel like the pandemic is, and are you feeling like they're pandemic related?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely a little more, not as much as I thought, but I would say the types of questions are a lot more specific about like mismatched libido and, like, issues with sex drive. Like, during the pandemic, I've seen a lot more, like, I got those before, but I've seen those increase in frequency since the pandemic started.
Well, I think the pandemic just increased the intensity of whatever was happening beforehand. So if X was going on in the relationship, and it's sort of like X squared now, don't you think? Somebody just asked if there's any, she said, what good books have you read about sexuality and relationships recently? I just need to say my book, Sex Points, which I'm like laughing at because I have to, like, you see Sex Points? Can you see the sign? Do you know that to get that sign the right direction is actually backwards? I had it printed. Do you see this? You see the sign?
Oh, it is backwards.
Well,
right?
it's straight now. I mean, you see it right on, but in other words,
For you, it's backwards.
I had to have it printed in mirror image in order to get it to be. Anyway, so if you're looking for a good book, pre-order my book, Sex Points. But anyway, be that as it may, I do think the pandemic is making things more complicated. And then somebody else asked Julia, and I think I know these people, like, if they want, do you have a journalist background? Like, how'd you get into this? Because I think everybody wants to be Carrie Bradshaw.
So yes, I do have a journalism background. I went to school to study magazine journalism when those were more popular. And I knew I wanted to write about, I was really interested in women's issues and also, like, service journalism, like, giving readers actionable advice and teaching them how to implement things in their lives. And I think I ended up getting my first job out of college was at Health magazine at health.com, and I didn't really envision myself working in the health field at that point in my life. But
well, women's issues, if you wanted to do women's issues, then health kind of makes sense, right?
I think I was back then, like I would, if someone would have asked me my dream publication, I probably would have been like Cosmo. And so I think I was thinking,
Well, just so you know, the love and sex relationship in Business Insider is a little like Cosmo. Okay, gosh.
yeah, but I think, yeah, so I was doing that, but I guess I didn't really put the two together. I was thinking more like political issues and, like I said, service journalism, and I guess it didn't really click that health fit that purview. And so yeah, I ended up doing it at my first job out of college there, and I got to write about a ton. And I had never in college written about sex and relationships specifically before, and I got to do a lot of that there, and that was my favorite thing. So I was there for a while, and then I had another job in between that, and then I saw this health reporter role at Insider, and at the time it was just health, and I was lucky enough they didn't have another sex and relationships reporter at the time, so I was able to really like own all of those stories, and it kind of evolved. And when the company grew, I was just able to launch this column. It's a great place to be able to like start new things. They're always open to new ideas, so it was also just having that right opportunity at the right time, I think, also.
Somebody asked if you have advice. I guess now we get to get your advice since you're at advice columns. Somebody asked whether you have advice for sober sex, which I found amusing because the idea that sober sex is the unusual thing is pretty funny. So, do you have advice for sober sex? Then I'll tell you if
Yeah,
I think it's good advice.
I saw that one too, and I also saw about sober dating. Yeah, I mean, I guess
Help me. Can you help
advice
me? Can you
for
help
it.
me and the people listening understand this idea that is sober sex and sober dating like a thing? Like, as in, I only do sober dating. I don't go out plastered.
Right. Well, I guess when I saw the thing about sober dating, I understood that as like I'm choosing to be sober as my lifestyle and I want to date like-minded people.
Oh,
But then sober sex, I'm not sure I fully understand like
well,
the
I
question.
guess what I was understanding about that is that there are people who have sex who feel like they need to drink in order to have sex, right? It makes them nervous, it makes them anxious, and so they get used to drinking. And then they made the decision that it's probably like a lot of college hookups are based on alcohol. I mean, they just are. And I think it's because people have anxiety, because drinking is fun and because people have anxiety, but it makes complications with consent and stuff. So, but she is saying
Got it.
people in recovery looking for sex and dating advice. So I'm sorry, I misunderstood it. And I think that is a fabulous question. You have any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. This was actually one of my first columns I answered was someone asking about this, and I think a big thing is finding like-minded people and then also just being straightforward about how you live in this intentional way. So I think one thing is no matter what dating apps or online dating services you use, just be honest and upfront about how that's your choice. Like I'm sober and I'm looking for either someone who is also sober or just someone who's respectful of your decision. And then also if you wanted to be more targeted, like I know experts have told me to use apps that are just for sober people looking to date sober people, that type of thing. But I think just being honest about, like, if you know what you want and what's good for you, just be upfront about that, and it'll really weed out people who aren't like that and aren't like minded.
So, Julia, I feel like that advice is the most important advice about dating and relationships in general. Be honest. Like, be honest about what you need and what you want. Like, whether you're not, oh, we're getting a lot of hearts here, whether or not you are sober and you're really making a choice not to drink, or whether you're vegan and you're making that choice, or whether you're into BDSM and that's what you want to do, or whether you're really into monogamy or you're into polygamy, whatever it is, like polyamory, like if you have to articulate what you want. If you want a relationship that's going to be respectful and sort of satisfying, you have to articulate what you want and not be ashamed of it. And I feel like so much of this starts with shame. So I'm so glad you said that because I think that's 100% a way. And I hope the person who asked about sober sex will think
Yeah,
that
I hope
that
that helps.
yeah, exactly. So tell us like a great question you got that you loved,
um, hmm.
or a surprising question you got that you loved,
I
or a
guess
struggle or a question you struggle to answer.
a question. I think a question I got that I was just like, oh, like I guess it surprised me that this is still a thing that has stigma around it, I guess, was someone asked, like, you know, I can only orgasm with my vibrator. Like, does that mean something's wrong with me? Like, just, I mean, yeah.
No, oh my God, you're surprised that still has stigma. Do you know, yeah. Yes. Okay, go on, wait. Finish the story because I interrupted you. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was someone who was like in their late teens, early 20s, because I can, you know, it's anonymous, but I ask for people's ages just to try to get the right advice. And I was just like, oh, like this 19-year-old woman like thinks that there's something wrong with that. Like that's like, it was just kind of sad. And like that's why I like doing the column, because I can really like debunk all these things that are, and destigmatize these things that should be. But it was just definitely kind of like shocking, but I was happy to answer that type of question.
It's Julia, I have to say, like, you're living my life a little bit. Like I there's one bitch I'm working with right now. It's making me crazy. She's like, I don't know, 48 or 50, and she's in a new relationship, like a year or two, and she's been pretending she's had an orgasm since she started the relationship, and she's not having orgasms, and she wants me to figure out how to have an orgasm from intercourse so she doesn't have to pretend anymore. And I'm like, that's like a magic trick. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that. That would be like my getting him to be able to ejaculate from rubbing his testicles. Like, it doesn't work that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I have to work with her to like help her figure out how to articulate to him that she's not having orgasms and that she can easily with a vibrator. That's the thing that's so aggravating. Like, and she's like, she doesn't want to tell him because she thinks he's going to think she's damaged. Like, so it is mind boggling to me. It's 2021, girls. Do you know what I mean? It's 2021. Like, what percentage of women can have an orgasm without a vibrator? Like, you know, 30% can have it from intercourse alone. You know, you need 70 to 80% need that vibrator. Or 70% use a hand, sorry. Whatever it is, I can give you all the percentages, but it is crazy that that's still a stigma. So I'm glad you think it's crazy, but and I do not know what to do with that. I feel like it's the movies. I feel like, I don't know what. Anyway.
Absolutely.
And what's the questions you like hate getting?
Oh,
You're like, oh shit, I don't want to answer this question, or sorry, excuse my language.
I don't know if there's any I hate getting. There's definitely ones that I get over and over. Like I would say there's this one theme that I'm now kind of like, this has been going on for a while. Like,
Tell us.
Saying like they're going through a dry spell with their partner, and that they notice their partner masturbates all the time, but like they won't have sex with them. Like, or do they have like some kind of issue or like that type of thing? And
are you getting these from women or men?
I would say mainly women are writing in saying this. And I think it's interesting because, you know, like the sex therapists I interview tell me, like, there's this idea that just because your partner like enjoys masturbating daily or however often, that is like somehow specifically related to your sex life. And it's just like, I think I'm just a little bit like, it's this similar thing. Like, people still think this, like, they're not related. Like, maybe they can be related, but I think more times than not, it's not the case.
Right. I guess the interesting question is, so this is where I think you and I should do like a, I don't know, game show or something like that. But no, seriously, like, if a woman came in and said, like, my husband, for example, is masturbating every day, but I want to have sex once or twice a week and he doesn't want to have sex, then I would say, okay, that's really interesting and we need to talk about what that's like, because it's easier for him to masturbate. There's no question, right? It's a lot less stressful, and it's just faster and it's more efficient. And if he's used to using porn, it's a very quick way to do it. But that's different than I'm having sex with my husband as much as I want to, you know, once or twice a week or whatever, 3 times a week, whatever we do. And then in addition, he masturbates, and somehow I feel like that makes me less than. So those feel like two different questions. So what are you getting?
I'm getting a mixture of both.
Do you agree with me that those are different questions? Because they feel like very different questions to me.
I think I do agree that they are different in that, like, if, like, it might be, like, yes, like, in that situation, it could be that person is masturbating as a substitute for partner intimacy, but I also don't think that's always the case. Like, it could be, you know, a self-confidence thing, or you know, something else where they choose to just self-pleasure, and like that feels safe, but maybe having partnered sex isn't safe, but it's not to replace it. Like, I think that could also be a scenario.
Right, but that feels to me like something has to be addressed, whether or not it's not feeling safe okay. And maybe what has to be addressed is you're not getting as much sex as you want, and that needs to be addressed more than the fact that he is masturbating. But I think that's really, honestly, if you ask me, I'm surprised that you're getting that from a lot of women. Because I feel like I hear that from the men, or the women feel like their husbands are complaining that they don't want to have as much sex. But you're getting women who feel like the men don't want to have sex with them and the men are masturbating. So the question is, do they not want to have sex with them, or are they just insulted that they're masturbating? Because that is really striking to me, that women always feel like somehow it means they're not good enough if the guys are masturbating, even if they just do it once a week.
Right.
But they somehow take it as personal.
I think it's a mixture of those people, and then also like a thing where, to which I say, you know, it's not it's nothing personal. Like, you know, self-pleasure isn't inherently linked to your partnered sex life. And then also, I do think there are times though when it has to be addressed, where it's like, you know, there's some kind of reason why you aren't being intimate together, and you need to call out the elephant in the room, but I do think that's
what I was talking about. Yes.
Yeah, but definitely both cases.
Do you feel like you personally have learned, can you tell us something you personally feel like you've learned during this time? Like, oh my God, I wish I didn't know this, and now I feel like, yeah.
I think a lot of things, it's like things I learned but maybe didn't implement until right away, and then when I was like, oh, I actually did this and it worked, like I wrote about, like but yeah, I think, I mean, the idea that like, I think just like scheduling sex, like there's nothing wrong with that, and there's this idea that it's super unsexy, but as your book lays out, I'm sure yeah, like there's nothing wrong.
You know what I like to say?
Helpful.
You don't think scheduling sex is sexy. You know what's really not sexy? Not having sex.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, scheduling sex is, I do have it in my book. I do, what?
We just got a lot of hearts.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the truth is, here's the deal. If you want to stay happy and sexual in a long-term relationship, you have to schedule it. And the funny thing is I have couples who say, well, we don't schedule it. Like, they've been married a long time, whatever. And I'll be like, really? So just tell me, when do you have sex? And they'll say, oh, well, we always have it like on the weekend, or sometimes we'll have it on the weekend, maybe once during the week, or yeah, I don't know, we don't let more than 3 or 4 days go by. That is scheduling sex. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that, people don't realize that long-term happy relationships, for the most part, are scheduling sex. Wait a minute. We have another question. Hi. So what do women really think about foot fetish? Oh my God. I have something to say about that. Do you have anything to say about that, Julia?
I was just going to say it depends on the woman.
I agree. Totally agree. But I have a joke with my husband that I wish I had married a guy with foot fetish. I like love feet massages. I would like nothing better than a guy who like worshiped my feet and wanted to massage my feet every night. So I wish I
No, that does sound very nice. That sounds,
doesn't it? Sounds amazing. Anyway, so you know, I have to say, why did the person have something they wanted to say about foot fetishes? Feel free to say it, because we have to kind of wrap up. I can't believe how fast it's gone. What do you feel? We have a question for like one or more, 2 questions. So is there anything I didn't ask you that you feel like would be really interesting for people, everybody who's listening, who's interested in this whole idea of like a sex columnist and what you get to write about and what that's like for you? And like what happens to you at dinner parties?
Oh, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, I think. I think I'm pretty normal. Like, I think that's one thing, like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pretty normal. Like, I'm not.
I'd love to do that. How do you think a foot fetish starts? Oh, God. Okay. You know what? I think we're going to put to bed the foot fetish right now. Yeah, no, I'm sure you're very normal, but do you feel like, does everybody want to talk to you at cocktail parties now? Like, are you the most popular person at cocktail parties?
I don't think so. Like, I'm
Really?
I don't know, because I think everyone thinks that they have their own idea of like what's best for them, and like also like asking for advice in person is very different than asking for. I think people are interested in how my job works.
Yeah.
But also people wouldn't like, you know, there's definitely some bold people who do that, but I think most people are a little too like, I don't want to talk about that in public, or.
Okay, I get attacked by people with questions.
You do?
Oh my God. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, one's at a funeral.
Like for advice?
Yes. Synagogue almost works as a second office for me when it's not COVID. I swear to you. People like pull me aside and they're like, my vagina's really been hurting me recently. Like, I swear, this is my life.
I know.
Totally.
Maybe it's because I'm a journalist that I don't get that. I don't know.
Okay, somebody just wrote in that Julia is my favorite person to talk to at a
Oh,
party.
that's my friend Blake.
Oh, I will, Blake, you have good
But we don't talk
taste.
about vaginas, though.
But you talk about relationships,
Yeah,
probably.
we do talk about relationships.
So does everybody now look at you and think, oh my God, you're like, so I don't know if you're in a steady relationship, but do you feel like you would have been a lot more popular if you were single now as the person who writes this column? Again, like
Yeah.
Sex in
I
the
am in
City.
a long-term relationship, and I also think I would be more popular if I was single.
Right, because I feel like everybody wants to date Carrie Bradshaw. You're Carrie Bradshaw. I'm gonna start calling you Carrie Bradshaw, actually. All right. Is there any last question that you feel like is important to talk about?
I didn't see any other questions.
Okay, but is there any other like really interesting question that's come in that you feel like you
Oh,
want to
I
talk
see.
about? Yeah.
What other questions? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
No, that's totally fine. I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to put you on the spot. But people can write to you. Where can people write to you?
Oh yeah. So if you go to insider.com to
Just plaininsider.com?
yeah, I'm trying to think the best way because it's like an anonymous form that you fill out, and I don't have the link on hand. But if you go to insider.com to
it's not Business Insider, right? Because I tagged Business Insider in.
It's
I
just
okay, it's Insider. Okay,
yeah. So that's where you can find the column Doing It Right. And
I love the name, by the way. Did you name it?
It was a team effort. We had a big brainstorm around it.
Okay, it was great.
Yeah.
Doing It Right is a great name. I should name my book Doing It Right. Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Your book. Julia, you're going to do a book. You're going to.
I need to.
Okay,
that's like a goal. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so yeah, if you go to insider.com, you can see my column Doing It Right. And there's also if you read any of the articles, there's a place where you can submit a question anonymously. Your name wouldn't be published, and I answer questions every Friday.
And somebody here named Hadley says Julia is doing it right.
That's also one of my friends.
Oh, there you go. I'm so glad your friends are watching. That's okay.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So also, people can follow you on Instagram. They can follow you on Instagram. Are you on Twitter or Facebook?
Yes, I'm on Twitter as J Naftulin, which is the same as this tag, just without the underscore.
Underscore at the beginning.
I make things complicated. Sorry.
Julia, thank you so much for coming live. It was so much fun. We have to do this again.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited. This was totally fun. And if anybody, they should get in touch with you also if they want a career in writing a sex and love column, because she's the best. So I'm going to blow you a kiss and have a wonderful, let me see your nails. What did you do with your nails? They're cool. What's on them?
Sparkly.
They're sparkly. Oh, I love it. Oh my God. Anything sparkle makes me happy. Okay.
Right? That's what I say. I'll come next time with more specific, juicy questions.
You got it. Absolutely, you got it. All right. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone. Good night.